Hello there, good to see you again. Friday, first week of Advent, and the snow has fallen. Snow on snow. Yes, it's picturesque, but it's absolutely freezing. I it's been very, very rare, I have to say. I usually get to November and I've still got sandals on. I very rarely get to December with my sandals on, but did it this time, but not today. Oh, well, obviously the snow came yesterday, but a bit chilly. Definitely long trousers and shoes. So hopefully we'll work that into the Christmas carol. Um, Going to first of all, this is a book. I've said we'll use different ones through the week, through the Advent season. So this is Advent in all the scriptures. So Chris Wright is an Old Testament scholar of some note. Probably the most important thing to note is the fact that he's a committed Christian, very academically able. And what he's really done is kind of reworked John Stott's various comments on various Old Testament and New Testament passages as they focus on Advent. So this is a famous passage. This is, well, most of them are famous because you've heard them before. This is Micah chapter 5, and it's basically the first 5 verses. Now muster your troops, O daughter of troops. Siege is laid against us. With a rod they strike the judge of Israel on the cheek. But you, O Bethlehem, Ephrathah, who are too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me one who is the ruler in Israel, whose coming forth is from of old, from ancient days. Therefore he shall give them up until the time when she who is in labour has given birth. Then the rest of his brothers shall return to the people of Israel. And he shall stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And they shall dwell secure, for now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and he shall be their peace. When the Assyrian comes into our land and treads on our palaces, then he will rise against him 7 shepherds and 8 princes of men. Assyria, that aggressive empire, brutal, vicious, and violent. 20 years ago, they'd smashed the northern kingdom of Israel, and now, certainly now in terms of Micah, Assyria is right at Judah's doorstep, in our faces, mocking and threatening our own king. What possible hope could there be? Judah needs a leader, but where is the modern day Gideon or the present Deborah in the house? God calmly answers, don't panic. I've got it all under control. I've got a ruler all lined up. But where? And this is where you would get an answer that's like, seriously? In Bethlehem. Where? This is an indication of just how small and insignificant Bethlehem is. It may very well have been the birthplace of David, and it was, but it's still so small in Micah's day that you had to name a place that it was near so that people could literally picture where it was on the map that they would have in their mind. So it's called Bethlehem Ephrathah because it's literally not somewhere that people know. And that is the point. Why is Ephrathah the point? Because whether it's people or whether it's places, God really does not look to the externals, does not look at what people see. So often in the Bible, God goes for the smallest, or the least, or the least important to get his purpose achieved. Think about Gideon, the guy threshing the wheat down a hole so that people wouldn't see him on the horizon and come and get him. David, who clearly has a whole host of brothers who are bigger, mightier, and just look far more the part when it comes to somebody who should be king. They were all the least in their families. But then again, we should be surprised in no way. Mary turned that very attitude into a song because God puts down the proud and lifts up the humble. There is a commonality to these passages when it comes to the prophecies and expectations of Jesus, whether they're in the Old Testament or whether it's the actual passages in the New. Paul turns it into a principle. God does not choose the proud, the wealthy, the powerful, but the lowly and least in society, like the believers in Corinth, who didn't feel in the world that they were in that they really counted for much. Do you count for much? I mean, in the big panoply of the world, in the things of import as far as this city and this country are concerned. It doesn't often feel like it. You just keep working away for Christ. You witness and you talk about your faith, however weak and small it might be. Well, as we've said, small and unimpressive. That's his stock in trade, whether it's places or people. Don't you think it is in itself encouraging? Maybe you feel very small sometimes, like a tiny cog in a big company, just one of many in your workplace, or simply the pressure of a pagan and arrogant culture that looks down on Christianity as nice if it makes you happy. When you're tempted to feel like that, remember Bethlehem, smallest village in the whole of Judah. So who is this ruler from Bethlehem? Who are they going to get? He will be for God and from God. God says, out of you, Bethlehem, will come a ruler for me. Which, when you think about it, given the fact that the situation was as it was, enemy threatening at the door, really it's the people who need a leader. But this is a leader who's going to be for God. Surely the ones who needed it were the people themselves. The point is, there are lots of kings who have been for the people and not so much for God, and that generally didn't turn out very well. But not only is he for God, he's from God. The words from old and ancient times could mean that he is a descendant of David, but more probably Micah means that his rule goes in its roots and in its origin into God himself. He references Deuteronomy 33:27. Here comes someone who, in some very literal sense, embodies the ancient identity and power of God of Israel. God has found a ruler for us, and he's on his way. So when you get to verses 3 to 5, he's going to bring unity to a divided nation, Judah and Israel. He's going to be the great shepherd of God's flock, a good shepherd, maybe. The rule will be the embodiment of the reign of God. He will bring an end to violence and fear for people who will dwell in peace and security. And climactically, he will extend his reign of unity, authority, and security to the ends of the earth. Yeah, it could just be poetic flourish. And then it could be the church that you go to, or Flemington Hallside in this case. You could be the example and the evidence of that very Bible verse. He will be our peace, the Prince of Peace, as Isaiah calls him, Isaiah 9, verse 6. How wonderful. We've actually got someone who comes and addresses us and how we feel in this 21st century, in this pandemic world, where we don't feel like we're in charge, and we feel faith can often be looked down upon. Recognize that Bethlehem specifically was chosen because, like so much of what God does, he's making a point. He uses the small and the insignificant, the people whose faith isn't necessarily going to fill a stadium or write a sermon, but he keeps us strong in the fact that that reality is real in us. He's going to work through us, and as such, he's going to ensure that even when it comes down to the place, God uses the least and the places that others bypass. Given the fact that we've been focusing on Bethlehem this morning, it seems appropriate that we should finish with an appropriate Christmas carol. O little town of Bethlehem.
Above your deep and dreamless sea, the silent
Hope you enjoyed the carol. Be with us on Sunday. We've got another, second Sunday in Advent. And we'll be focusing last week was those in darkness have seen a great light, and now we've got of a focus on the Magi, the wise men. I can't say three. We don't know how many there were of them. All we know is they brought gifts. There were three. Until then, Sunday or next week, go with God, because I know God goes with you. Bye.